This is a short article that just appeared in Nature in, just a few weeks ago at the end of August 2025, and I'm recording this less than a month later. Why am I saying that? Because I've been covering AI topics generally, whatever I find interesting, and we have looked at how maybe AI is being overhyped according to some reports. One MIT report even claims that many things are not really working, but we have also said how great AI is in helping with climate action, adaptation, mitigation, early warnings, weather prediction, climate prediction, and we have talked about how AI consumes a lot of water and energy, and we need to make AI itself sustainable as well, even though AI can help with sustainability. So this article is a little optimistic on how net zero really needs AI and what steps we have to take to make it possible. Just as a note, let's say, the author is a Microsoft employee, so from the corporate world, has a credible scientific record in terms of publication. So the point is, if somebody comes from the corporation, do they tend to oversell AI? That's up to you to decide, but in general, keep it in mind. And this article kind of makes similar points that we did made before from another report on how AI can help with mitigation and what governments can do to create, the ecosystem for AI research, implementation, mitigation, workforce training, and so on. So it's not completely new in that sense, but nonetheless we can just keep adding more points when they are reasonable enough to be added. This is a prop using a robot with artificial intelligence technologies that's inspecting power system in Chuzhou, China. So you can find a million examples. There is another one here. A system that uses AI technology and more than 1,000 cameras detects wildfires in California. Right? And we have seen many examples of predictions and so on. So what does it say? Net zero needs AI, 5 actions to realize its promise. It appeared in Nature, so must be important enough, right? And the section, it's setting the agenda in research. So it's a comment in that theme. Without artificial intelligence technologies balancing human-caused greenhouse gas emissions with carbon removals by 2050 is out of reach. Without artificial intelligence technologies, it's out of reach. Here is how to keep this goal alive. So sounds very optimistic in what AI can do, but also saying without AI this will be out of reach. So that's kind of a strong statement. Maybe, right? I don't know. I will read some. It's a short article. I'm going to be brief about it anyway, so I'll read some main points. Let's read the upfront material. In 2024, the global average annual temperature exceeded 1.5 degrees C. Already this is debated because different products show different levels of warming. Nonetheless, I've also talked about how maybe 1.5 degrees C is not such a critical threshold because it's not really scientific. It's just made up. I've discussed this elsewhere. You can follow up. AI systems can play a crucial part by improving energy and resource use efficiency, accelerating innovation, and expanding people's capacity to act. But without swift, deliberate effort, this opportunity could slip away. Okay? Realizing net zero, balancing the amount of carbon emissions emitted with amount removed by mid-century will require rapid large-scale transformations. Electricity generation must nearly double. So we've talked about all these things, what we need to do to reach net zero by 2050, because if we want to stay under 2 degrees C, forget 1.5, then we will need to meet these timelines. But right now I have another podcast talking about how all the focus is on the US in terms of climate action, budget issues, etc. But EU itself is reneging on many of its commitments. Especially Sweden is used as the leading failure in climate action more recently, and Sweden had committed boldly to net zero by 2045, but the way it's going right now, that would be quite impossible as well. Anyway, renewable energy capacities must triple by the end of the decade to meet the rising demand without simultaneously increasing emissions. Steel, cement, chemical and other industries, which are responsible for almost 1/3 of the global carbon dioxide emissions, must shift to net zero emissions, even though affordable, scalable alternatives are limited. So in many ways, these are called technological promises, and we are building lots of castles in the air based on them. Carbon removal must increase rapidly. Scalable technology doesn't yet exist. Highly durable removal methods such as enhanced rock weathering, which can store CO2 for centuries to millennia, must scale up by 1,000-fold by 2050, removing gigatons of CO2 annually to help neutralize the hardest to abate emissions. So these are standard words we have already discussed many times, and again, caveat is always that we still don't have these, and in a life cycle sense, we don't know whether enhanced rock weathering will be something that can go on forever. Once you, let's say, crushed rocks, transported them and spread them all over, can you keep doing that? Is that something that will keep on giving in terms of continuing to work as a CO2 drawdown? We don't know. Progress is constrained by three barriers: system complexity, slow innovation, and workforce gaps. For example, electricity grids can become harder to manage as reliance on variable, decentralized renewable sources rises. This summer in 2025, Spain, Portugal had a massive issue. We don't know yet whether that was related to renewables or something else, but we are still kind of learning as we go along. Clean technology can also take years to develop and scale up, and skilled workers are in short supply. With all that, AI is not a silver bullet, but without it, these problems are unlikely to get solved fast enough. Okay, much attention is focused on AI's high energy consumption and water use, and then the author goes through arguments as to how that consumption is not really something to worry about. So there are no all these AI things are not major drivers of global climate change. Framing them as such distracts from the AI's transformative climate mitigation potential and from its biggest influence on the climate, which will depend on how it is used, which is true for everything, right? Pretty much everything we do has, potential unintended consequences, sometimes intended negative consequences, in the sense we don't care enough. Here I put AI's operational footprint in the context of its broader climate impact and outline 5 areas of action that are needed to realize the technology's potential to achieve deep decarbonization. So the AI's climate ledger kind of says how many things AI is doing. AI's demand for electricity is rapidly increasing. The International Energy Agency (IEA) reports that global electricity use by data centers could more than double by 2030. I have discussed these numbers elsewhere. In the US, data centers consume about 4.4% of electricity and could reach 6.7 to 12% by 2028, depending on AI deployment and efficiency. Basically, if you keep track of the carbon footprint of energy sources, then you can always be optimistic about these growing demands. There are many ways to look at it, so we have discussed this elsewhere. Meeting this surge entirely with carbon-free power is challenging. In the past, data center developers only prioritized cost and infrastructure. Now, many also consider grid capacity and carbon emissions. There are transmission bottlenecks and so on. I've also mentioned elsewhere that the big corporations like Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Apple, etc., Facebook are building their own energy sources, geothermal, even talking about nuclear, etc., to meet their own energy demands and so on. So here is a little data: AI emissions trade-off. Widespread deployment of artificial intelligence tools in energy sector could cut 1.4 gigatons of annual greenhouse gas emissions by 2035, more than twice the amount projected to be produced by data centers in terms of emissions. Further reductions could come from AI use in electricity, transport, and food sectors. So again, as I said, very optimistic article, and comes from the corporate sector. Projections by 2035 then Energy sector alone, electricity, food, and transport together, AI rollout can be limited or accelerated. So here you are looking at CO2 emissions per year in gigatons. Negative means you are obviously reducing emissions by enabling AI. So here are emissions from data center operations, order 1.5 gigatons when you consider electricity, food, and transport with accelerated AI or limited AI. But when you do emissions reductions enabled by AI, they can take out much more than what they are expected to emit by 2035. So there will be a net negative in that sense, which is the argument for this paper, saying net zero is not going to be possible without AI, and deploying AI will cost energy, but they can more than compensate for it if we do it smartly. Okay. Some numbers on ChatGPT, which gets a lot of attention, but there are many now. ChatGPT's 2.5 billion daily queries consume about 0.5% of the amount of electricity used each day by people watching television in the United States. The chatbot's estimated daily water consumption, about 3,700 meter cube, is negligible relative to the 690,000 meter cube used for powering US televisions and the roughly 43 million meter cube of water lost daily in the US states, in the US owing to leaky pipes. So it's kind of saying AI is not the worst. There are many other things which are much worse, but we still need to worry about water overall. Okay, so AI is also accelerating the search for low carbon materials, including alternatives to cement. So obviously you hear about AI now in protein synthesis, in grid management, energy management, water, food, agriculture, health, and transportation, everything, right? So AI alone will not deliver net zero, but it's a powerful tool for accelerating deep, sustained decarbonization. Realizing its full potential requires doing the following. Then the author lists 5 steps that we mentioned before. Not fantastically new, but still worth re-emphasizing. 5 actions: invest in AI for climate. In 2024, AI climate technology raised $6 billion US, with most directed towards commercially attractive sectors such as autonomous vehicles and optimization in energy, homes, and agriculture. Autonomous vehicles also are flying clouds, or moving clouds, because they have to constantly collect data, synthesize, and make choices to avoid accidents and drive you safely to your destination and so on. But you have to worry about energy there, and we have already said we'll do it with renewable energy, right? Or we will take out more carbon than we emit. Okay, crucial areas such as grid integration, materials discovery, and carbon removal remain underfunded despite AI's potential to accelerate progress. There are more details that I'm skipping. Next one, build inclusive data and digital connectivity. AI's climate potential is limited by data gaps. Furthermore, much of the existing data aren't structured, accessible, or licensed for AI use. We have already discussed this in the Amazon report and the other reports that we have looked at, including IEA and IRENA and so on. Okay, minimize resource use and expand carbon-free electricity. Of course, to meet global climate goals, all sectors, including AI, must use energy and water more efficiently and ease pressure on local energy grids and water supplies. For AI, this means improving efficiency at every level: hardware, model design, deployment, and operations. Okay, and there are more details you can follow up. Govern AI for Earth alignment. Current governance focuses on safety and privacy, with limited attention to sustainability. To close this gap, governments, companies, and investors should adopt the Earth Alignment Principle, which is a paper that the author is part of the author team. Aligning the development and use of AI systems with decarbonization and biodiversity protection is under this Earth Alignment Principle. Maybe I'll cover it elsewhere. Strong Earth alignment calls for AI technologies to support, or at least not undermine, sustainable production and consumption. Achieving this will require fresh metrics, risk frameworks, and investment incentives. Upskill the workforce. This is what we mostly do in academia, but also can happen in the industries. And people are, getting all kinds of mixed messages, especially from people like Bill Gates and Narayan Murthy and Nandan Nilekani and so on, saying whether AI will take away a lot of jobs or some jobs will do better with upskilling and so on. Upskill the workforce. AI sustainability impact depends on a skilled workforce, yet only 39% of people globally who use AI to work report receiving employer-led AI training, even though 66% of business leaders now consider AI skills essential. In other words, people are beginning to get to use AI in their jobs, but they are doing it ad hoc on the job without specific training. The IEA found that adoption of AI has been slower in the energy sector than in other industries. Without targeted support, a growing AI skills gap could limit progress in climate crucial sectors such as energy, agriculture, and public policy. Governments, companies, and educators must scale up domain-specific AI training. This includes integrating AI into vocational programs, upskilling public sector and research and development professionals, and teaching people how to collaborate with AI tools, not just to operate them like a black box. So this is called co-piloting in some lingo. Building this fluency is essential to unlocking AI's full climate potential. Reaching the net zero by mid-century requires AI technologies with smart investments and responsible use. It can enable the speed and transformations that the transition needs. Okay, so as I said, it's quite optimistic and arguing that without AI, net zero is basically unreachable by 2050. You have to decide whether you really believe that, or you think there are ways to do this. Basically, AI is now unavoidable. Everything we do automatically comes with AI. Your phone, your electricity system, your car, everything, right? So it's in some ways non sequitur to say AI is needed, because AI is here and it's not going to go back. So it's a question of how much it can explicitly contribute to accelerating net zero transition and all the innovations needed to drive net zero, and all the management of energy, buildings, forests, resources, biodiversity, etc., to achieve net zero overall and sustainability. Okay, let's leave it here.